Okay, so welcome back. Thank you for staying with us here on the Morning Rush. It's time for us to talk, and I mentioned before the break that we're talking about World NTDs Day. If you do not know about that, that is the World Neglected Tropical Diseases Day. And on Friday, we began the conversation with our guest, the research scientist from Noguchi, and we started talking about today is the actual day. And so I've got two guests here, Kenneth Bento Otabil, doctor. I need to add a doctor because sometimes the doctor, they went to school for it. If you don't add it, it's like, so Dr. Kenneth Otabil Bentum is here with me. He is from the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Sunyani, and also join us is Madam Blessing Ankrah, also from UENR, University of Energy and Natural Resources, helping us with this conversation. Good morning, gentlemen and lady. You're welcome. Yeah, we were talking about earlier that Sunyani all the way to Ankrah this morning.
Yeah, we had to, because this is very important for us as the NTD community. And we thought it's very important that we come to engage a media platform like yours. So that we are able to get across to the entire nation to actually throw the spotlight on neglected tropical diseases. So that is why we are here.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic to have you. So let me just give you some brief background of our guest this morning with Dr. Kenneth Bento Otabil. He's a neglected tropical diseases scientist and lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani, and also the head of the Department of Biological Sciences, and also group lead of the NTD Research Group at the Center for Research in Applied Biology at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. And Blessing Ankrah is also a neglected tropical disease epidemiologist or clinical research coordinator at the NTD Research Group, also at UENR Sunyani. So you see, we have big people in the studio this morning to talk about this. So it's the 4th observance of the World NTD Day. How important was it in the first place for such a day like this to be put aside to observe this particular day? And it just came recently, 2020.
Yeah, Desmond, that is a very good one, and a very good morning to viewers across the nation. This is very important because previously the fight against neglected tropical diseases had individuals. We had different diseases, and then we're doing them individually. But at a point, we came to know that the spotlight was actually not getting onto the neglected tropical diseases. They remain to be neglected all across the world, mostly because it affects the people who are mostly impoverished in hard-to-reach communities. So the voices were not heard. And unlike COVID, this one, you will agree with me that because it affected almost the entire world, there was a lot of global action, a lot of political will to deal with it. And you see the effect of a concerted effort to deal with COVID. Unfortunately for NTD, it was not so for a very long time. But somewhere in 2020, the world got to understand that there is a need to put the spotlight on these diseases. And that's how come we had the World NTD Day. It was actually in 2021 that the WHO itself accepted this day and passed it as an official World NTD Day. So we are very happy to have this a day like this to mark NTD, because it allows us to make noise, if you will, give voices to the voiceless, be able to project these diseases that are neglected, so that the world is able to garner political will, commitment, and action to fight these diseases.
Blessing, hasn't it come too late? I mean, because we've been talking about, last week we mentioned a number of the diseases, bilharzia, all of the others, and we are saying that about 1.7 billion people across the world. How have this, and it's just what, 3 years, 4 years that we are starting to throw the spotlight?
Just as Dr. Oti said, the condition has been there for years, and the main point in it is neglected.
Okay.
So neglected because it's a condition that mostly affects the poor. So it's a condition that is neglected. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody says anything about it. No policies has been made to combat this condition. So definitely, it's been there for ages, but since nobody wants to take action, and you need to see some of the communities we go to look for people who has this condition. Sometimes there are no cars, you have to sit on tricycle and stuff like this. So it goes far to hard to reach communities. So people barely hear about them. Those in this hard to reach communities also don't have their voices being heard. Nobody goes there. And so how do people get to know that there's a condition like this in those communities? And aside that, too, something like onchocerciasis has been there for long. We've been treating it for ages, maybe before I was even born. Yeah. But because it's a condition that has really been neglected, we barely talk about it. We barely talk about it. And mostly when it comes to women and girls, it really affects us the more because we are the ones who do mostly their daily activities. Go to the riverside, go to the farms with our husbands and stuff like that. But because it got to a stage nationwide, worldwide, women's voices were not heard. Conditions about women too were not heard. So some of these conditions hasn't come out. It's been neglected until recently. And it will baffle you to note to what extent this condition can really affect people. Women and girls and kids, and like we are mostly the vulnerable ones when it comes to this condition, and our voices are not heard. Great.
Talking about neglected, maybe someone is watching for the first time hearing about this, the NTD, the neglected tropical diseases. Doc, if you could just rush us through quickly what those really are. Friday we did a bit of that, but those who couldn't catch up with that.
Okay. All right, yes. So, Desmond, once again, thank you. So, there are currently 20 diseases that are recognized as neglected tropical diseases, according to the WHO classification. Now, these, there is still some advocacy trying to get more diseases on the platform because there are more diseases that still remain neglected where we need a political will to fight. But currently, the 20 include river blindness, which is referred to as onchocerciasis, lymphatic filariasis, which we popularly know as elephantiasis, and then sometimes filaria hydrocele that affects men. So normally you see the testicles of the men swollen in some of these places, and it's very, very interesting when you go to, and pathetic, when you go to the communities and you see the way people have to suffer because of some of these communities, these conditions. For example, in some communities in which we work, there are men whose legs are so large, unfortunately unable to get shoes of any size. They will have to make up their own slippers or sandals to wear. Some of the men have to walk always with a wrapper or a cloth around their waist because the testicle, unfortunately, is swollen. So that is with elephantiasis. We also have bilharzia, schistosomiasis, which in Chi, they will normally say junsomoja in some of these communities. We have scabies, which is also considered to be neglected of the neglected tropical diseases, yes, because we rarely talk about them. And it will interest you to know that in some of the communities in which we work, scabies, we found out that if you go to some whole communities, about 37% of the entire community has scabies. There are some of the conditions such as yours. And I remember one community in which we went, we were surprised ourselves. We had to actually speak to the Ghana Health Service Directorate in our region about the place because about 50% of the entire community had yours. And at that point, because we're using rapid diagnostic kits, we as scientists were contemplating, okay, this is possibly syphilis or yours, but it's even more dangerous if it is syphilis. Okay, so it tells us that some of these conditions, we have mycetoma, we have Bruley ulcer, which we all know, snake bite, envenoming. So like snake bite, we don't talk about snake bite, but if you go to the villages, you get to see the plight of people dying because they've been bitten by a snake and there is no antivenom for them, or they are unable to get there quickly. Some will resort to traditional medicines to try to provide some first aid for themselves. and all of that. So some of these are some of the conditions, the neglected tropical diseases, and I think as we go on more, we'll discuss more too.
But as you go around and speak to these people and interact with them, knowing their condition, do they themselves know what they're going through?
No.
What do they think it is?
Sometimes they attribute some of these things to witchcrafts and dervish and a whole lot. You tend to hear somebody has cursed somebody, and that is why he or she is suffering from this. I remembered somewhere last year we went to a community and we met this woman. She had onchocerciasis and she was literally blind. So you could see it on her eye. She couldn't see anything and she had just given birth. She had a new baby. And the husband has run away. Why? Because they thought she fought with a next door neighbor and the person said something and that is what caused it. Meanwhile, it was uncle. Okay,
I'll be glad if you could mention the community so that we would know the spots, we could throw the spotlight on where exactly these things are.
Okay, so most of our research currently are done in the Wenchi district, right?
Okay.
Wenchi district, and you hear communities like Kwanwari, Kokompe. So with what I'm saying, Kwanwari, you understand?
Oh, that's what you said.
That's Kwanwari.
That's the name
that's
of
the
the
name
town.
of the community.
Yes.
Kwanwari. So sometimes we have to go into the community with tricycle, then step aside and walk like 1 hour, 2 hours in the bush just to get to the community. So you hear Kwanwari, Kokomba, Otukrom, in the Wenchi Town district. Those are where the communities are. We currently have about 14 communities and we are expanding.
Interesting. I was just going to ask the question that, so all of them vote anyway. That's an answer that you can answer for yourself.
Yeah, I was surprised when one of the community I saw this political parties stickers there. I was like, really? And nobody comes there. There's no water. There's no good water. There's no school. There's no hospital. There's no clinic. There's no good roads. So it's really neglected.
Let's move away from politics. But anyways, you can also share with us your comments on WhatsApp 0553 0000 35 0553 000035. If you've got any questions you want to ask about these diseases that we are talking about, maybe you've seen some signs somewhere, you could just share with us on the WhatsApp number, and definitely we'll get I'll ask our scientists here what they think about it. So 0553 000035. Now to this particular day, or no, before we get into the day, let's zoom into Ghana. So worldwide it's 1.7, right? Is there any statistics for Ghana?
That's a very good question. The Ghana Health Service has a Ghana NTD program.
Okay.
We have been doing very well.
Okay.
Recently, I know Desmond, you are aware that Ghana eliminated, some years ago, Ghana eliminated guinea worm. Just some few weeks ago, officially, the WHO has congratulated us for eliminating sleeping sickness. So we are making strides. We are doing well, but we definitely must tell ourselves that there is more we can do. Indeed, for me as a scientist, sometimes I worry why a disease like onchocerciasis is still not eliminated from Ghana. Because when you look at our control database prevalence level that we had, we should have eliminated the disease up to now. So in our research, for example, we decided to go to the communities to try to see why some of these neglected tropical diseases still persist despite the efforts of the Ghana Health Service. And Desmond, it will surprise you to know that for some of these communities, people are now becoming apathetic towards the control programs that we have. So, for example, onchocerciasis and lymphatic filariasis, we give them ivermectin. But then every year they are given ivermectin. But now community dwellers are saying that they've taken the drug for a long time. So some of them, exactly, so some of them are saying, oh, and we don't know why we are taking the drug, blah, blah, blah. So because of that, it's making compliance to these control programs very low. And for some of the diseases too, there is very little we have done in terms of control. So, for example, for schistosomiasis, which is a very big disease in Ghana, you notice that we are still in the control phase, trying to control the disease. So we have done a lot as a country, but there is much that needs still to be done.
Wow. So that brings me to the causes of these. I know, Blessing, we were talking about women being the ones to get into that. So let's talk about the causes, and if someone gets it, any of these diseases, what's the treatment like?
So when it comes to some of these conditions, we as a research group, we are focused on parasitic NTDs.
Okay.
That's conditions that, neglected tropical diseases that are related to, that has parasites as their host. So conditions like schistosomiasis, like this, we have the snail.
Okay.
That are the hosts. So what happens is that when those women goes to the riverside to fetch water, for their daily routine, some of them who are close to the fishing communities to maybe go to help their husbands or sell, those who sell those fishes and stuff like that, they get infected when they are in the river.
Okay.
Aside that, when it comes to onchocerciasis, we also have those who are close to the farming communities, the black flies. I think in Chi we call it, can you help me with that? Nkontia, Nudowa. Depends on the communities.
Oh,
okay, so it's black flies, they come to settle on the skin and they bite, feed on the skin, and you get this condition. So, lymphatic filariasis like this, you'll be surprised, it's caused by mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes?
Yeah.
The one that bites?
Yeah.
So sometimes when we go to the communities and we are like, oh, it's caused by mosquitoes, they'll be like, really? Yeah. And at the end of the day, lymphatic filariasis is there.
I've never heard this, and I'm sure lots of people just think that...
heard this. Yeah, that's why it's neglected in the first place.
Interesting. So if someone has it, what is the treatment process like? If you go find out that someone has got elephantiasis or any of those things, what's the process like to get them treated?
All right. So for all the disease, there are different treatment modalities.
Okay.
Because they are caused by different organisms. Some of them are parasites, some are fungi, others are bacteria like Borrelia ulcer. So because of that, you need to have different treatment for them. So if it's onchocerciasis, usually we don't do individual treatments. So what is done by the Ghana Health Service is preventive treatment every year. Depending on how severe the condition is in your community, you receive either one-time administration of ivermectin or 2 times administration of ivermectin within the year. So that is more like to prevent you from getting the condition. And if you have the condition, to clear it from the skin, because the ivermectin is able to clear the baby worms from the skin of an infected person. It's interesting to know that it's the same drug, ivermectin, which is also used to treat lymphatic filariasis or elephantiasis. So every year we also give ivermectin in respect to that. Usually we've come to know that a lot of these diseases are co-endemic. When what we mean by that is that they exist in the same place, and sometimes the same person might have both onchocerciasis and then lymphatic filariasis. Yes. One person, yes. In one of the recent studies we did, there were a number of people who had lymphatic filariasis, had onchocerciasis on them, and that is quite interesting. And then for them, it's very unpleasant. If you see the skin of some of these people, for onchocerciasis, for example, you see nodules on the skin of these people, and to get rid of them, you have to go send them for surgery, remove the worms from their skin, etc. So there are different treatment modalities for them. If it is elephantiasis, normally if it is large, they will recommend tissue debridement, so surgery. Take certain portions of the tissues away, because the worms live in the lymphatic vessels and they block the flow of the lymphatics. So that leads to the accumulation of the fluid in the leg and enlarges the legs or the body part as it is. So by debriding the tissues that are dead and also clearing the vessels, you treat the person. In some of the previous studies we did, we got to know that if you actually give people with lymphatic filariasis or elephantiasis or hydrosis, if you give them ivermectin and then add something like doxycycline, their condition gets better. Yeah, so those are some of the treatments that we have for.
Okay, I've got some messages coming through. I'll be reading them in a bit, but I'm really learning from this discussion we're having this morning. So share with us 0553 000035, 0553 000035 on WhatsApp. And I mean, I can only imagine someone has elephantiasis and has some other thing. Hey, oh yeah, some more. So this day, marking the World NTD Day, what are we saying? What are we trying to achieve with it?
We are trying to end NTDs. By that, we are trying to let the world know about NTD. Okay. Opinion leaders, the government, policymakers. We want all of them to come on board, help research scientists like ours, and help us end NTDs. It's a fight to end NTDs. Okay. Aside that, we want the media to also have its own voice.
To throw light on it.
Yeah. Throw light on it, just as you said. Give voices to the voiceless, to the communities, so that they'll be able to, we'll get those politicians, government bodies, NGOs, policymakers, all on board to fight NTDs. Just as you said, the condition has been there for years, so it took just recently for policymakers like the WHO to even approve of it. So we are all trying to make sure that everybody hears about it. And so this year is to involve the policymakers, governments, politicians, NGOs, partners from all over the world to help fight NTDs and end NTDs.
And the theme for this year is Act Now, Act Together, Invest in Neglected Tropical Diseases. That's a very powerful one. So let me get to the messages. People have questions to answer. Great delivery from Doc, Otabil, and Ms. Blessed. My question is, what is NutriDis doing to end the neglect? That's from Theophilus. And he comes back saying that what control strategies are being pursued with regard to NTDs? And in your view, what are the important factors that need to be taken into account in order to sustainably reduce the risk of NTDs in these affected regions? So he's got 3 questions. I'm doing 2 now. So you take 1 each. The first is about what is NutriDis doing to end the neglect?
Okay, thank you very much, Desmond. And it's a very good question. So NutriDis is a research group at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, and we specialize in parasitic neglected tropical diseases. What we realized was that a lot of the research efforts previously was centered in the southern part of Ghana. So when we go to a place like Sunyani and the Bono region, Ahafo areas, etc., we noticed that research in terms of NTDs was very green. And we barely had data, quality data, in terms of what the prevailing situation with these diseases were. So NutriDis at the University of Energy and Natural Resources was formed to address this challenge, trying to look at what the situation of NTD is in these communities, trying to see intervention, test certain interventions in terms of implementation research, operational research, etc., trying to see what will work, so that we make recommendations to the Ghana Health Service, who is the main policy implementer when it comes to the fight against NTDs in Ghana. So that is one of the things. And I'm happy to say, Desmond, that right from the University of Energy and Natural Resources officially, NutriDis is recognized as one of the official partners, international partners for the World NTD Day. Great. So actually our activities at Metro will be reported to the World NTD Committee, with major partners being WHO, Uniting Against NTDs, Youth Against NTDs, etc. So this is actually something that we at NutriDis are doing. Our major activity is research, training, and then also engaging in community engagement like this, which is advocacy for neglected tropical diseases.
Fantastic, and that's a very good one. Now, how do we sustainably reduce the risk of NTDs in the regions? Just
as we've started, we are making. So when we go on field, we target, we get to know some of the prevalence rates of this condition in most of this community, and we don't work alone. We work with the Ghana Health Service, the NTD coordinator for the region, and we report most of our findings to Ghana Health Service, because they are the policy makers. They make the strategies and policies, so definitely they've been doing their best. So when we report to them, they go to these communities. Sometimes there's this compliance to take this ivermectin drug. Because of we've taken it for quite a long time and stuff like that, people don't want to take it. So when we report these cases to Ghana Health Service, they go back, talk to them, educate them. When we go ourselves on field, we educate them on some of this condition, and we talk to them about it. We do advocacy. Sometimes we find ways. Last year, I think it was last 2 years, by God's grace, we partnered with an NGO, Grace on Points NGO, to get sandals, footwears for people in some of this community, because we realize some of this community has a high prevalence rate of STH, that is soil transmitted hepatitis. So we partnered with them that we wanted footwears. So we distributed over 1,500 footwears for some of those community members. So those are ways that we've been trying to prevent the condition in the region. Okay, great.
To some more of the messages. Good morning. God continue to bless you, Dr. Otabil, and his research assistant, Madam Ankrah, for their good work done. World NTD Day. That's from Emmanuel Kofi Saki. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for your message. This one says, good morning, Doc and Miss Blessing. In fact, I'm really learning a lot from the show this morning. Emmanuel Ansaufe from Gambaga. Okay, thank you very much. This says that, good morning, Metro TV and panelists. My question is, can elephantiasis be cured or managed? If yes, how easy is it? We've got a few minutes, Doc. Okay.
All right, yes, we can manage it. It depends on the stage. There are different stages.
But it cannot be cured?
It depends on the stage.
Okay.
And there are new interventions that are being tried. And that's why I don't want to, as a scientist, I don't want to say never, because there are new trials that we are doing to in terms of cure. But when it gets to a certain stage, the latter stages, at that point, it's only surgery that can be done to manage the condition or reduce the width of the leg or the body part as it is. And unfortunately, some of these surgeries fail. As those who have done hydrocelectomy, where they take out the fluid and then the lining of the testicles, they've come to notice that the condition comes back again. So the management is not too good, and that is why the control program in terms of every year trying to prevent the disease is very, very important. Because once we prevent it, prevention is better than trying to control.
Okay. Yeah. And my final question before we wrap it up. When we talk about tropical diseases, definitely talking about the tropics, how important is climate in helping all of these diseases go on? You know, what's the role in there?
Yeah. Climate affects a lot of vectors, and it affects them differentially. So, for example, black flies like warmer climate. Mosquitoes like different climate. So depending on the type of vector we are talking about in terms of the disease transmission, then that affects whether the rate of the disease will go high in a particular climate or not. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the World NTD Day today, what are the activities, probably for the year throughout from your quarters?
Okay, so it's a week. We are planning a week activity, so we're starting with Metro TV by God's grace. Definitely. And we also have some activities on radio, Greener FM in Sunyani. That's for the University of Energy and Natural Resources. And we also will be engaging some of our communities where we go for research work and maybe probably a little education. We'll give them a little education about their conditions. So those are the activities we have.
The activities lined up. All right. All right, so the theme is Act Now, Act Together, Invest in Neglected Tropical Diseases. And so if you do not know about it, now you know about it. If you go to your hometown one of these days, please go around the community and see if there's anything like that you can report to the Ghana Health Service so that they can come through. And these people have dedicated their lives to make sure that they help end neglected tropical diseases. So it's a beautiful thing that they are doing, and we pray for more grace for you to be able to go through that. Thank you for coming. So we've got, we were speaking to Dr. Kenneth Otabil. He's a neglected tropical disease scientist and lecturer at the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani, and also the head of the Department of Biological Sciences, and also Ms. Blessing Ankrah. She is an epidemiologist and clinical research coordinator at the Nitrodis Research Group, also at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. So thank you, lady and gentlemen, for coming. Wish you the very best in all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Desmond.
Great. So we're going